Good morning. This is Ron Brown. It's early Sunday morning, March 24th, 2024. This week I'm continuing the series on creating a watch lists in HCS Investor, but rather than using some of my scans, I'm going to just concentrate on one thing, and that's the leaders index, and then use some of the scans, apply the scans to the leaders index. Now, remember that always the market is your teacher. You don't need a lot of outside opinions. Just let the market tell you what's going on. Here's my standard risk disclaimer. Any stock, index, or ETF mentioned in this presentation is not a recommendation to buy or sell. All trading strategies are used at your own risk. If you want to create leaders indexes and follow these steps that I'm going to show you in this video, you should have the software. Just go to highgrowthstock.com. Get the 30-day trial and make sure you use it if you get the trial. It takes effort, but it's worth it. Okay, I'm in my major markets plus folder. If you have my files, or if you make your own files, you go into the designer, and there are two primary folders on here. These are my non-index files, which where I keep track of certain scans and so on, and also all of my prospecting groups, and then also the market analysis user group. And I'm here in folder number 1 under the market analysis user group. Just click through to the warehouse, and it is sorted on the combo ranking, which is a percentage price change 1 day. So this is Friday's action. And you can see that the UVXY, the short-term ETF, was up the most on Friday, and Bitcoin was down. Or at least the trust and the ETF were, and I know Bitcoin was down too. But anyway, this is a quick snapshot that I look at, and just looking across here, I can see that the Ultra VIX has been down most of the past month, looking at 21 days, 5 days, and so on. And the strength has been over that time period, and let's go to this 21-day column, has been in the semiconductor index, and it was up a little bit on Friday also. But this is just a quick snapshot of the market, a 1-day snapshot. But these other columns are in here so you can see what happened to these indexes historically over the past 21 days and since the beginning of the year. If you look at this number here, you can see that the strength was clear, or has clearly been in the semiconductors, and the broader NASDAQ composite has done very well too, followed by the QQQ, which is a proxy for the NASDAQ 100, also at 9%. But what I want to concentrate on today is this leaders index, which was created on February 9th. And if I bring it up, I'll just double click on it. And what I have down here is a daily chart and a weekly chart. So I'm going to bring a crosshair up, and alternate eye brings this information window up. And let's locate 2.9 right here. So it was created from this list of stocks right here on the 9th of February. So it hasn't been all that long, but what I did is I just took a point in time, and I keep track of the market leaders every day, and I'll show you that here in a second. And I just grabbed that file and dated it. And what I'm going to do is show you some ways you can get information out of this leaders index. So what I'm going to do first is change to the index group. You can see there are 275 securities in here. These securities consist of tech stocks, biotech, internet-based, and so on. You can see the numbers in here. There's several semiconductor and semiconductor manufacturing devices, some home builders, and so on. This, remember, is a market snapshot from February 9th of this year. So it hasn't been that long. But the reason I created this is so I could see what the leaders were on that day and then I could use it as a way to get a feel for what the market's doing, because generally when the leaders start rolling over, then the market itself is probably in trouble. Let's look a little closer at this. If you look over here at the weekly chart, put the crosshair on, that goes back to November 3rd of 2023. That's when this group of stocks really started taking off, and it's a group that's pretty much maintained its strength up to this point. And you can see it's gotten a little loose recently after being extremely tight, but this really is, I'd say, a proxy for the market. And you can see the market's been doing this too, but right now this is in a trading range, but it really hasn't made a definitive move one way or the other. So what I'm going to do is, since this is an index created by HGSI, I have a folder here of HGSI index charts. That's my folder number 2 under my name. And I'm just going to take a quick look at some of these charts to analyze the leaders index. I'll get the crosshair off of here, and I'll make it full screen while I run through these. You can see this is A accumulation and this is E distribution. You can see the A's were coming down, but they've turned back up. This is A and B versus D and E, so there's still strength in this index based upon accumulation. Here's a low volume test followed by a confirmation. This next one is pretty much the same thing. It shows accumulation up here. It's gone from C to B as this is turned back up. And these just show the flow in and out on accumulation of the entire index. So here is E, here is D, going down as B's go up and A's go up. A is the dark green. If you look over here, I put a legend in here. It tells you what each of these are, so you can actually see accumulation in and out. Looking down here, you can see the index is still above the 18 period exponential moving average. Here's the 50, the 100, and 200. So looking at these two charts, it still looks pretty good. Now this is more accumulation distribution. We're seeing some distribution right up here, but since then these lines have turned back up, just not enough to give us a green bar, which means that they're both above the zero line. Now here's the Chaikin 21-day. It went negative, but it's slightly positive still, so not a lot of information out of there. Now here's the advanced decline line of this index only. You can see that this is still really strong, which you would expect out of this. Now looking over here, you can see as of Friday, 88 advancers, 175 decliners. So there was some deterioration on Friday. I just dropped down to the next one. Now this is a percentage of the stocks within the index that are above their 20, 30, 50, and 200-day moving average. And you can see, there's not, it's really flattened out. There's not a tremendous amount of strength here, but we're looking at 270 stocks, 278, I believe. So there is some deterioration here. But what we're going to do as we go along, we're going to see which stocks are still leading. Now this is a chart that I look at. You can see on this day the advancing issues versus declining issues and advancing versus declining volume. Both were over 5 to 1 because it's dark green. If they're between 3.3 and 5, they're light green. So here was a buy signal for the index on this day. Now, certain stocks are going to be a buy in here and some are not. This one is the same as this one, except the next one, but I eliminated the moving averages. Now looking at this is that index advanced decline line, and here is the percent above the 50. It's just a view which shows us that there is deterioration within this group. Advanced decline line, but in this chart, I put all these warehouse fields in here, and this is another nice thing about HDSI. You can put these warehouse fields in a chart, so you don't have to go look at the warehouse views, and you can see the percent advancing versus declining, and the same numbers that I saw in that other chart. Just a quick read on accumulation numbers and so on. Other than that, not a lot of information. Now here is a chart that contains the crossover histograms and so on down here, but also the force index 2 and 13. You can see the force index 13 is still positive. The 2 is pulled back as momentum has dried up a little bit on this index. But the index is still above the 18-day exponential moving average, so it's far from correcting at this point. Now the force index is today's close minus yesterday's close times today's volume with a 2-period exponential moving average here and a 13 up here. So it's averaged over 13 and 2 days. When they both turn negative, then it's you're in more of a corrective mode, like right back here. But even though that came or fell down, it didn't get down below this 18-period exponential moving average. So you need to look at everything at the same time. This is just a McClellan oscillator. You can see it's in the center. It's not an extreme. It's been bouncing around this area for a long time. Doesn't give us a lot of information. And finally, this is a similar chart which shows acceleration accumulation. When it's really accelerating and under accumulation, you'll see these green bars because both the AD velocity and the AD percent are above the middle line, and they both have to be above it. You can see that, and that tells you there's a lot of accumulation. Now here we had just the opposite. This one fell below, and it is based on accumulation direction. Now accumulation it takes a while to accumulate and distribute, so it's kind of a lagging indicator. For example, I'll put the crosshair on here. Okay, down here when this rally began on this, notice that these bars turned green here, and it was D, it was E, D, C, and the move up to this point after several of these green bars, it took that long for this to turn to B and then to turn to A. It was up at this point. So it lags. These acceleration, deceleration bars, as I call them, and these are something I came up with. They work pretty well, not always, but it just gives you a feel for accumulation distribution. And recently it's been falling off, as you can see, but these have turned back up. And if we have a strong week or a strong Monday, this has gone from C to B. You'll probably get a dark green bar in here. It's just another nice visual to see what's going on in the index. Now this is the leaders index, but you can look at any of the indexes like the S&P 500 and do this same analysis, but I'm concentrating on the leaders index today. So the market, it still looks pretty good to me based upon the leaders index, and you can create these leaders, this leaders index, anytime you want to. In fact, if you're a subscriber to the Insider Club on these on-index files, if you go down to the market leaders, I have a history going back for a year and every day. Now, recently I've been putting MKT after this, so when I run a group inclusion report, I can see, rather than just the date, I can see if it comes from this market file or not. Now, we have 275 securities in here right now as of the February date. But if I wanted to start a new leaders group, I've already got it. It's already made. I'm going to go to all securities here, alternate space bar, and I'm in all securities. And you can find under my folders right here, top-down process scans. You go under my number one folder in these. I'm going to be working with these in the rest of this video, but if you want to find what the leading stocks are, market leaders, you just click on that. And I want to point something out. If you look up here in the corner, my original leaders index was created on February 9th, and look what the number of stocks are today compared to February 9th. Now, this tells me that the market has obviously gained momentum since then, because we have 346 compared to 275. So we have different leadership and some leadership. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a group from this. I've already made it, but I'm going to do it again, just show you how to do it. 2024, and the date is 03. Let's see, this is 24th, so this would be Friday's date, the 22nd. And I'll go ahead and I'm going to generate an index for this. Okay, and I'm going to show you something here. I'm going to go to the designer under File menu and slip down here to the Compare Groups. And the group Okay, so what I paused that, now I'm going again. What I did is under, well, let me do it again. Under the designer, under the File menu, there's this feature called Compare Groups, and you can compare two groups to one another to see which stocks are still in there, or are in there. So I'll do that again. So I want to select the 209 leaders, and then I want to go down here and locate the group that I just made. So I'm comparing the February 9th leaders to the March 2022 leaders. I'll click on this, and I've got a compare. I'll just overwrite this one. Okay, so what this does is it brings up a group comparison report. And you can see the two leaders groups here. There's 112 only in the February 9th, and there's 184 only in the March 22nd, and there's 162 in both groups. So what this tells me is that the 162 in both groups are leaders from the past and leaders that continued to be leaders. Now, if you look over here to the right, you can see it says Copy Symbols. I'm going to click on In Both Groups, and then these are the stocks that are in both groups, and there are a lot of them, 162. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a group. I'm going to copy these symbols. This opens up, you do a Control-C, and I'm going to close this. I'm going to go back here, and I'll just go into my user groups, make a new group. Might as well date this. And I'm going to paste this list. You can see 162 securities were found. You say OK. and I want to generate an index for this. Okay, now I'm going to double click on this. This is our new group. You can see there's strong accumulation in this group. Let's just look at this one right here, and you can see that this looks stronger. Of course it's going to, because there are older leaders and newer leaders. I'm going to get out of here, and I'm just going to go back to my daily charts with end of day statistics. I'll get rid of the crosshairs. And now I'm on the 322 leaders, but I need to go to this one, both groups, and let's look at some of these stocks. I'm going to drop down to a different view, or I'm going to go to a different view. I'm going to go up here under my HDSI index analysis, this folder, and look at the percentage returns up to 12 months. So looking at these leaders, you can see how these have performed over one day and several days, quarters, and so on, the beginning of the year. And you can also come over here and see what industries they're in. And a lot of times you're going to find biotechs at the top of the list because they are highly speculative, while this is a buyout. So this is probably a buyout too. So I need to get rid of those. So what you do is you just click through to the designer. Notice this is highlighted. Click your delete key, and it disappears. This one here also, just click through to the designer. Hit the delete key, and it disappears. Let's see if there's any more at the top of that list. Well, no, NVIDIA is maybe this one is. No, yeah, it is a buyout. I want to get rid of one more here. Okay, so let's go with this list. I think that's all of them. I'm not sure, but look at what's at the top of the list, and this is the percent price change beginning of the year. That's what it's sorted on. NVIDIA's at the top, followed by Vistra Energy, Poplevin. I don't know if that's a buyout or not. No, it's not. I didn't think so. So these are the stocks that are in both groups. It's a combined leaders group. And probably the column to concentrate on is what have these done since the beginning of the year, and this is what the combo is sorted on. You can see that there have been some tremendous gains in these stocks. Now, you may think that there are no opportunities to get in these stocks once they start moving, but this leaders folder should really be looked at every day in conjunction with certain views. Now, the views that I use are my standard prospecting views, and I want to go to that. So I'm going to go down here in my number one folder, and I'm going to start with the number 2. It's what I call impulse reaction. It just means these are really strong stocks that have pulled back slightly from their high, and you can see that this is lower than the prior day. So here's the impulse, and here's a slight reaction. The reaction is at the end of the current bar is what I should say. Let's look at the next one. So here is the impulse, which means it's moving up, and then here is a slight reaction. So you can find stocks this way. It's subjective, of course, or you can use these columns, and this is what I like to do. These are the days since the 3 crossed the 6, and days since the volume point of control crossed down. Now looking at this, Fiat, or that's not Fiat, it's FTA, I think, aviation. This tells me there was an opportunity to buy this stock on a pullback at least 8 days ago, because This is the days since the 3 crossed the 6. Let's bring the chart up. And I need to change charts. I'm going to go to this one right here. Actually, I'm going to just go down to 2B because it has everything I want in it. And I'll make this larger so you can see it. So where was the buying opportunity? Here. Based upon this, on this pullback right here, which corresponds to this, that is a buying opportunity based upon a 3-6 pullback where the stock remained at or above the 18-period exponential moving average. Now back here, did the same thing. There was a pullback here, 3 below the 6, but it got slightly below the 18, but look at these VPA. This is strength coming in. Here's a confirmation of that strength, and then this was right before earnings. So, I doubt if you'd take that unless you were already in it. But going back further, look at this, the pullback. Now, when these are pulling back, they're going to be in this column right here. And if they're in the leaders group and in this column right here, that could be a buying opportunity. Back here also, look at this, a test, confirmation of that test, effort to rise, effort to rise, effort to rise, and then a slight pullback. Okay, it pulled back here, the 3 below the 6, another opportunity. My point is this: if you use my leaders list, or if you make your own leaders list, you can look for opportunities to get into these stocks on the long side or the short side just by using these columns here. So I want to bring this up. Let's see what's going on right now. You can see that most of these are positive, which you would expect in the leaders group. But if I sort on this and go down, let's see if there are a few leaders. Now, these are stocks that are within 5% of their 52-week high. You can see there's a few that have turned negative here on the 3 and the 6. I'll open this up, days since the 3 crossed the 6. Same thing on the volume point of control. And these are fresh signals, or fresher signals here, that have pulled back and they're moving up. So let's just take a look at some of these. Okay, here is I'm on number 2. This is the impulse reaction. What I want to do instead is go down to the 7 key. Let me bring up the quick pick so we can see this better. So let's go down to the 7 key. I had to engage the filter. Nothing was coming. Anyway, I'm in the leaders in both groups. This is a number 7 view, counter trend 3 below the 6. So I can quickly isolate which stocks where the 3 has crossed down below the 6. And if I bring them up, so this is a leading stock. You can see that the 3 is below the 6, but we're getting a low volume test here. So this is a potential trade to the upside. It should go on a watch list because it just barely crossed and it's still moving up. Now this is blue is relative strength to the industry. It's been stronger than its industry, and the green is the industry. So there's 4 stocks here. Here's a low volume test. Expensive stock, but you can certainly look for some options, see if they're liquid, see if you could get into a bullish debit spread or something. Ross Stores, you can see this pulled back, bounced a little bit off of this. Volume is light on this pullback here. I'm just saying these are 4 leading stocks, and this one's a little bit loose for me. But just by going to these views, you can quickly isolate them. Now let's go down the list here. So impulse reaction, and then I went down to the 3 below the 6. But let's look at the a 10-period volume point of control crossover today. That means that there's a zero right here. And here's one of the stocks I just looked at. Let's look at Nutanix, crossover on the 3 and the 6, and also the volume point of control. Here's the, if you look down here in the lower right, volume point of control, and the 3 crossing the 6. So this looks like a pretty nice setup right here in a leading stock. I'm just going to continue down the list. Let's see if anything shows up. Now, here is a 2-day window on the crossover. You can see this. Crossover day is today, but in the filters I've allowed the 1 day also, so I can see stocks that have crossed over in the past 2 days. So here's crossover today. You see the green bar down here. Same for this one, Sprouts Farmer and Market, the green bar crossed. And then Celestica, you can see that the crossover happened 2 days ago and it's still up. So this is the 2-day window on these. So these are relatively low risk entries on leading stocks is the whole point of this video. There are opportunities. And if we go back and look at a stock, let's look at KLA-Tencor. And I'm going to bring up an arrow. This is kind of loosey-goosey, but here, remember, this is a leading stock. And let's see, leaders in both groups. Somewhere here, okay, this is the first one. So here's a pullback opportunity here and a potential buy right here, just using the 3-6 crossover and the volume point of control. There are always opportunities to get into these leaders just using these simple indicators. Now, this one right here, number 536 crossover with the pocket pivot. If I bring Sprouts Market up in the filter, you can see there's no pocket pivot here, but in the filter I allowed, if there's not a pocket pivot, if there is an effort to rise VPA flag in that stock, I also considered that a pocket pivot, or as close to being a pocket pivot as possible without actually having the pocket pivot signal. It would be a stronger signal if there were a pocket pivot, but an effort to rise after a test is a pretty good indicator. Now let's move on to the next one. I told you in a video a while back that the continuation indicator is one of my favorite indicators, and I'll show you why. Okay, here's Sprouts again. Let's look at Freshpet. Continuation indicator, these are the requirements. You have to have a pocket pivot or an effort to rise. The VPOC has to be positive. The 3 has to be above the 6. But what really drives this one is the pocket pivots with these other 2 conditions being met. It just means that there is continuation. Now look back here at these pocket pivots, and you can see that the 3 was above the 6, barely, but it was. See if I can find a better example, a clear example. Here's Micron. Let's go back to this area here. There's a pocket pivot, but the 3 wasn't above the 6, so it's green here. But on this one right here, this is an excellent continuation flag because pocket pivots were positive, the force was positive, and the 3 crossed back above the 6, and then the stock took off. We're seeing it here. No, that's not right. This one right here with this pocket pivot. These are all continuation flags. I want to find a stock that is much tighter than, there's another couple more stocks that are will be out of the database soon. When the takeovers are complete, these are automatically taken out of the database. Well, let's use NVIDIA. Probably an excellent example. So where is the continuation? Where are the continuation flags on NVIDIA? Well, here's the pocket pivot. At the same time, there was a VPOC crossover, and the 3 didn't cross the 6 until this day here. But that was a continuation signal, a continuation flag. Now, all of these pocket pivots, the blue bars, when they appear, if the 3 is above the 6, and it clearly is throughout this period, and we get a pocket pivot, and the VPOC also has to be positive, these are continuation signals, which means they are signals that you can possibly get into a trade. Yes, this is a very expensive stock, but these stocks, if you know anything about options, and if you know how to do in-out spreads where one strike is in the money and one strike is out of the money, you can get into a stock like this, and you can buy the bull debit spread, and if it moves up like this, you can make 50% on your risk in a matter of days. So there are ways to play these stocks, and I do a lot of debit spreads now just because I don't want to take a lot of risk on a stock. I don't want to lay out capital to play a stock like this, but yeah, I'd like to play it. SMCI is another example. Let's see what it looks like. Now you can see that this has been all over the place, but bringing this back up. Okay, here are our pocket pivots. The 3 cross the 6 right here. So that would be a crossover day. Cross back down, and then look at this. This histogram is really high because of the 3 is getting spread apart from the 6, so that gives you the high histogram. But here's, okay, let's go down here. VPOC, pocket pivot, and volume. This would be your crossover, so we're looking for other places to enter this stock. You're not getting a pullback till up here. It really got wild here, but every one of these pocket pivots in SMCI right here, because the 3 is above the 6 and the VPOC is positive, these are all continuation potential buys. Once again, a very expensive stock, and I certainly wouldn't be laying out the capital to get into it. But I know some people can and will. I'm just too old for this stuff. But I don't mind risking a few $100s to get into a trade which could return 50% on capital in a matter of days. What the debit spreads allow you to do, or credit spreads, I prefer debit spreads just because there's no risk in them. You either make money or they can expire worthless if you hold them to the end. But it just gives us the opportunity to trade some of these leading stocks if they have options. The point of this video, as you probably surmised, is that follow the leaders list and look for opportunities to get in. Now, if the stocks aren't extremely expensive, you can just, lay out the capital, or you can trade options if the bid-ask spread is not ridiculous, and you have to be careful of that. You always have to be looking at the liquidity. Okay, this is getting a little longer than I wanted, but I just wanted to point out these leading or leaders indexes do have value, and the number of stocks that are in both leaders indexes about 6 weeks apart are 160 combined. So that means that these stocks have been running for a while and they continue to run. So look for opportunities to get in. Just the easiest way, rather than looking at rather than using my scans, you can just look at the number of days these have been long, and then the opportunities are going to be, of course, when you resort on this, and this column is blank, or the VPOC column is blank, and then there are opportunities. So right here, let's look at this. Let's look at Texas Roadhouse. I had a debit spread on this one, which I just closed. Anyway, the days since the 6 or the 3 across the 6 is 9 days ago, but the VPOC is pulled back, which means we're getting a pullback on demand right here. Now this gapped up on earnings. I made some money on it. It wasn't going anywhere, so I just took it off. I think I made 30-some% on the trade. But what I'm pointing out here is this is a VPOC pullback. There was another one here, another one here. It just isn't doing much. But these are the kind of things you can look for potential entries. Potential entries. How about Ross Stores? Okay, you can see the VPOC has turned negative. The 3 was above the 6. It's turned negative also. But this is a stock that you could put in a watch list to see if it's going to continue. It's getting a little sloppy in here right now. It's weaker than its group because of the green bar. You can see this. The industry itself is blue, but this one is underperforming its group. I'm going to look at one more of these VPOC pullbacks. This stock is still the 3 cross the 6 clear back. Well, not that long ago, right here. And it's been moving up, but now there's an effort to fall, a pullback on the volume point of control. But if this sets up again, this could be an opportunity to get in this stock. So when you see these pulling back, you can just add these stocks that have pulled back to a watch list. And you know they're leaders because they're passing the leaders filter, and there may be a chance to get in to go higher. Well, thank you for listening. I know this kind of got long, but it's an interesting way to look for opportunities in leading stocks that are pulling back.